Okay. So hello everyone. Welcome back to Hobbit's live stream today. Joy are back. And the topic today, idea to self-study English effectively. We still have Denny, our regular guest. And I'm really honored to introduce an amazing guest today, Judy. And she is Brazilian and she has a BA in languages, English and Portuguese, and a postgraduate degree in translation, hold a Delta Modern 1 first certificate and an ICERT certificate. And moreover, she is a teacher for over 35 years and experience in teacher training and school management. And also experience taking Cambridge exam like CPE, CAE, FCA, etc. So Judy, hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
How
you
are
too.
you?
It's a pleasure to be here today or
Yes.
tonight.
Yes. So how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Yeah, so you was born in Brazil, right? So
Yes.
your first language is Portuguese, right? So English is your second language. So can you share us about your English process at early stage? Like what is the most difficult thing that you have to face or just something like this?
Yeah, actually, when I started studying English, it was at school, and I was always very good at all the subjects. And suddenly, I started to have English classes, and I was a total failure. Yeah, it was very frustrating. The teacher would ask me to stand up and read, and she would correct every word I said. So it was really a shocking experience for me. And because of that, I don't know, it's the spirit. I was challenged because I thought, I don't want to be someone who's not doing well in a subject. So I started to study a lot so that I could thrive and I wouldn't feel embarrassed in front of other students again. So I think that this was my first motivation. Yeah. So after that, I decided to join a language course. So in Brazil, what happens is that at that time, many years ago, the methodology used in schools, in regular schools, was what we would call translation method.
Yeah.
So we would have the text, and then we would have to translate the text, and we would have questions about the text and a lot of grammar, no speaking. It was really, really boring, in fact.
Yeah.
So I decided to join an English course. And in the English course, we were developing speaking skills as a priority. And as a secondary skill, we would learn writing and reading. So basically, most of the focus was on listening and speaking. And I can proudly say that after 6 months, I was one of the best English students in my course at school. Yeah. And learning English has always been or was always very hard for me.
Yes.
And because of that, I decided to become an English teacher because I realized that it doesn't have to be so painful. You know what I mean? I mean, of course, that you have to make an effort and you have to study. It's not like a miracle for most people. Some people have what we call linguistic intelligence, and they can learn languages very easily. I applaud, I admire them. I am not one of them. So I think that this helped me a lot. When I became an English teacher, because I was the most patient and I would celebrate every success of students that I had. And
so
that was really great. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's really impressive perspective from you. Like everyone, if find something is painful or hard, they decide to go far away from this, right? So, but you are different that because of you think that it's difficult, it's painful, and you decide to face with and like your career, like all of your career to relate it to English.
Yes.
And and you conquered it and you make it like become your life, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that this is the attitude that we can choose. When you have a challenge, are you going to run away from it, or are you going to face it and beat it, and be successful?
Yeah. It's really like it's this mindset, or it's part of you. Like I think it's helped on any major. It's not only English, right?
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for sharing. I think it's valuable things that I can, because I am like the same. You at the first time, like I really afraid of English. But now I decided to face it. Even now, it's like my English is not good enough, but I still facing it. And I think it's like someday it will become my life. Like when I finally got this. So Judy, related to our topic today is a self-study. So I want to ask you the thing like so what is the important thing that you think that people who teach themselves English to know? Like you, of course, you have to self-study or learn by yourself a lot when your English career, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yes,
yeah, I think that we have. The topic is self-learning, but I think it is very important that people look for support.
Yeah,
because it's very difficult, mainly at the beginning, to have the motivation to move forward if you don't have adequate, appropriate support. So actually, when I thought about this topic, I thought about someone who's taking classes and who will be studying outside the classroom as well, because this is one of the very important elements for the development, in fact. Because if students, and this I can tell you from my experience as a teacher, I've had thousands of students in all these years. So I know that it does make a difference when students study on their own outside the classroom, or if they don't. And this can be very basic, for example, reviewing the lesson before going to class. This is already studying outside the class. So not showing up in the classroom and saying, I don't remember what was covered the last class. I don't remember what the teacher taught in the last 5 classes. So this is the first thing that I would advise people to do. Before even looking for all the many different kinds of materials that we have available online, that we have available at the bookstore, or outside the classroom, the first focus that I would recommend is to review the classes. And how can you review the classes? And then it depends on what kind of classes you have. So if we take for granted that we're talking about classes that will focus on the 4 skills, that is reading, listening, writing, and speaking, you can work on the 4 skills, reviewing the lessons that you had in the previous weeks, and even in previous books. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you mentioned about like when we have a class and the things that we do outside the class, that the thing that we support for what the thing we will learn in this class, right? Mm-hmm. But how about the different activity we learn that is not support for the class we will have? Like we just learn about something around the class. It's not related to the class that we take. So what is the important thing that we should know when we learn self-study like this?
Mm-hmm. I think that when we choose the content, because there's so much available, we need to choose content that is only slightly more difficult than what you've been learning in the classroom.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is that if you choose something that is so difficult that you cannot understand clearly, this is going to be like noise, Yeah. It won't be something that you understand. And if it's not something that you understand, it can be demotivating. And in fact, you cannot take much from that content. So, for example, I know that some people don't like romantic songs.
Yes.
They like rap.
Yeah.
But rap is very difficult to start with. So sometimes we have to choose some content that is easier at the beginning, and then we can increase the level of difficulty. Yeah. When we think about movies, romantic comedies are very simple usually because you have a predictable story and a predictable ending. So it's easier for you to use this kind of movie to start learning the language. Yes. And then after your English level is a bit better, then you can look for Woody Allen, you can look for other directors who have more complex movies. Yeah.
Yes.
Books are the same. I remember that when I was going to college, learning English, my professors would say, okay, you're reading Jane Austen and you're reading a lot of complicated books from other centuries. But this is not going to help you to learn the language that you need for your everyday use. Yeah. For that, you have to read, I don't know, for example, have you ever heard about a book called Eat, Love, and Pray? That's a very popular book. Or men are from Mars and women are from Venus. So perhaps the content is very simple, but at the same time, it is the language is simpler. So it helps people to start reading in a language. Yes. Something that a lot of publishing companies sell is what they call graded readers. So graded readers are books. Probably you already heard about that. Are you familiar with graded books?
They are in Vietnam, but they wouldn't call it that way. Could you describe it, please?
Yeah. So usually publishing companies like Longman, Oxford, they have books that are written specially for English learners. And they are graded, they are categorized in different levels. So, for example, the first level would be A1 level. So if we think about A1, it is someone who has been studying English for between 4 to 6 months, 4 to 8 months. And the language is very simple. You only have very common vocabulary. The structures are very simple as well. And then you can move on to the second level, and you will have a wider range of structures, more vocabulary, and gradually, well, I know some series that go from level 1 to level 5 or level 6, which is about intermediate level, pre-intermediate, intermediate level. So in that sense, depending on the level that the student is, he or she should choose something that is around the level where they are. And I've seen students develop their reading skills just using graded readers, and suddenly they were reading books at a higher level than the level that they were studying, and they were learning a lot from this.
Yes. So choose the level that we should learn. I think it's really important. Like it reminds me at where like 2 years ago when I tried to learn English by French, and I tried to watch French without subtitle, and to, try to get something, but like the result is nothing. Because I cannot understand it, and it makes me feel like I'm not good enough, or I'm bad at English, or why I can understand the movie that everyone like they says that they learn English from, and I cannot and it makes me like lost motivation to continue learning. So, but now I realized that choose the level that I can learn at the time is really, really important. It's make it. Yeah.
You were telling me that, and I remembered something else. When we think about studying outside the classroom, it has to be fun.
Yes.
As well. Yeah. Not all the time, but at least part of the study has to be fun. I remember, my first language is Portuguese, and I studied Spanish for some time, and I was really, really struggling because I had very boring classes too. And then I thought, what do I like? I like music, I like movies, and I like beautiful people. So I thought, I'm going to look for singers, bands, movies, where I can see beautiful people using the language. So I learned, I found some singers that sang the kind of music that I liked, and I started to listen to those songs in Spanish and watching movies in Spanish. But of course, that Spanish and Portuguese are very similar. Yes. So I have to admit that I start 40% ahead, because there are a lot of words that are similar. The grammar is kind of similar as well. So it is as if when I start studying Spanish, it is as if I were already a B1 level student. So I could start by using a lot of authentic materials. But still, I would choose things that I enjoyed, because this is very important. And when we're choosing this, when we're studying, for example, movies or listening to songs, you have two different ways of looking at that. You can do that more intensively and more extensively. Do you know what I mean by that? So, for example, if you choose Friends, like you said, you chose Friends and you started to watch the episodes without subtitles, and watching the whole episode, that is kind of extensively. Yes. So one of the suggestions that we have when we're working on, for example, a TV series episode, is not to focus on the language all the time. So it could be, for example, watching the whole episode, perhaps with subtitles, because why not? You know, at the beginning, you should use the resources that you have available. And I don't even know if Friends is the best option nowadays, because Friends is what, 20 years old?
Yeah. Yes, like all of the people around me, like crazy about Friends, and me too. Mm-hmm. Because the content, they really, hilarious and funny. Yes. Yeah. Like, and, when I realized that I shouldn't watch Friends for, just focus on learning. And it's like, it turtle me, like it's pressure. And I cannot enjoy like nothing at all. So so I decided to watch it, like to enjoy it. But, people tend to, do something and constantly check the improvement, like when you watch a movie and you want to check that you can understand or not, and you improve or not. It means you improve or not, right? Mm-hmm. So it's, I think so it's the reason why we should choose the, appropriate level. And we can, I think during we're learning, and we can see like, we can understand this, we can learn it, we can get it, or we can catch it. I think it's really important things, right?
Yeah. When you think about, for example, measuring the improvement, this is something very subjective, because sometimes you can spend hours watching something and enjoying that, and you can't actually measure the improvement. Yeah. Yes. But it is sometimes there, you can spend hours exposure watching something and enjoying that, the more familiar it is. And then that's going to help you in some way. Improvement. Perhaps not something that you can actually feel, let's say, easily, but you will have some moments of success when you will realize, all those hours when I was listening to my favorite singer and singing along, that helped me. My pronunciation improved. I learned some of the vocabulary. Suddenly you see an expression, you listen to someone say something and you realize, wait a minute, that is in one of the songs that I used to listen to a lot. And something else that we need to remember when we're learning something or learning a language or learning anything, repetition is very important, but not in the sense of getting something and repeating over and over again. But the fact that we expose ourselves to the language in different contexts will give us the chance to see, for example, expressions, vocabulary in general. It was the topic last week, right? So probably you talked about that. I remember, so as a teacher, I was giving a class in a building, and they decided to control the entrance of the people in the building. So they put, those things that they are called turnstiles. You have to go through, and they turn, so they are blocked. For example, when you're taking the subway, you have them controlling the entrance of people to take the trains. And when they install that, well, I had never seen that, and I had never seen that word. And I was giving a class upstairs, and suddenly one of my students asked, "Teacher, how do I say blah, blah, blah?" So in Portuguese, that's called catraca. Very different, right, Denny? Very different from English.
Yeah.
And then they asked me, and as a teacher, well, I didn't know how to say that. So I looked it up, and I told the student. And then I forgot it. So next week, another student asked me, and I was like, okay, let me look it up again. I told the student. And then I was watching a movie. Oh, is this movie popular in Vietnam? It's called The Devil Wears Prada. Have you ever heard of this movie? No?
With Anne Hathaway and...
what's her name?
I can't.
She's a director. She was the director of a very famous magazine, fashion magazine. And there is a scene where, in order to go through, she has to sing a part of a Madonna song. Anne Hathaway, she has to sing that song. Otherwise, the guy will not let her through. And then they said the word again. And then that was the third time I saw the word. And I thought, wow, okay, never forgot it. I'm not saying that 3 is a magic number, but the fact that you can see something over and over again in different contexts will help you remember.
So we came to that. Then you just said that, Judy, could you give an example about how a student could use the show like Friends or other TV show or movies to have improved their listening comprehension?
Mm-hmm. So the first time I would watch an episode, the whole episode, with subtitles to understand the context, to understand the story. And then I would choose just one scene to watch without subtitles, not the whole episode. Of course, that if they are at a higher level, why not the whole episode? But if you're at a lower level, it's better to just choose one scene. Some of the scenes are very complicated. You have a lot of dialogues, they're telling jokes, and some of the other scenes are simpler. So you can choose some of the dialogues that are simpler and then watch that part without the subtitles.
So
listening comprehension. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I know some students or some people, when they are studying a language, will go more to comedies. But then some, for example, like if they're learning Spanish, might watch Mexican dramas or other things like that, the soap opera, Mexican soap opera, or Colombian soap opera. I was going to ask, generally speaking, from what I understand, humor is usually one of the most demanding or challenging, one of the most challenging aspects of a language. And for lower level students, they might consider more something a little bit more serious in nature, because then the language is more literal, is more obvious, rather than using humor. What do you think?
Yeah. I think that even using the example of Friends, you have some scenes that will explore humor. But a lot of the other scenes are about relationships. And relationships are universal. I remember a scene where Rachel kisses Ross for the first time. And then the boys are talking about the kiss and the girls are talking about the kiss.
Yeah,
do you remember
really,
that?
Yes.
I still remember that the guy said, "Oh, kiss? Yes. Tongue? Yeah. Okay." The conversation was over. And then the girls were like, "Tell me everything about that." And then, but this is about relationships, and relationships are universal. We are romantic. We want to find love in our lives. So of course that, for example, if someone watches the Oscar show and they want to practice listening using that, that's going to be very hard, because usually they invite a comedian and the comedian tells a lot of jokes with some knowledge that they have that is very specific to the film industry. Yeah. So they refer to other movies, they refer to past movies where those actors were. They use a lot of American, I think, culture. So sometimes we don't understand the joke, even if we understand all the words. So that's actually very challenging. And I think that this is something that we say in Brazil. If you have to explain a joke, the joke is not funny anymore. So, so this is not actually the ideal content. I would agree with Denny when he says that we should avoid comedy in this sense. But when it's a romantic comedy, I think that it's universal.
Yes. So with friends, I always advise my friends who want to watching Friends, like because sometimes during the episode, that if we clear about the character of the cast, it will more funny.
Yeah.
But it like when you didn't know, like you didn't know anything about the cast or the character, so it will be fun if you understand it. But if you just watch it without I think clearly about what's the character of like a Rachel with says or Chandler with what says, and it will more hilarious if you know. So it's just watch it without knowledge about this, the character of this film. It will make it's more boring, I think.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Nowadays,
we have a lot of TV series that are only 6 or 8 episodes.
Yeah.
I don't know if Netflix is available in Vietnam.
Yes.
Yeah. So Netflix has lots of short series. So it's easy to have the beginning and the end in just a few episodes. So it is easier for the viewer to actually understand everything, because I think that one of the challenges of the not old, but some of the TV series is that they have, for example, one of my favorite TV series, I think it has 18 seasons. And it's too much. I mean, it is okay for the fun part of it, but if you want to understand all the story and everything, then it's more challenging. So I think it is a good idea to choose some of these episodes, the series that have only 6 or 8 episodes, and focus on them for understanding, so that you can understand from the beginning to the end of the story.
Yeah.
Though I think that up to a certain extent, most of the TV series take for granted that someone needs to be able to start watching them, for example, in season 5 or season 6, without going back and watching the other seasons.
Yes.
I think something else that is very important for listening, in fact, is to choose content with different accents. Because you have a lot of materials, and of course that some accents will be more difficult than others because of some regional differences. I actually grew up just watching American movies and American TV series because they were widespread in Brazil. You know, there was this culture of the American culture, and forgive me, Denny. But you guys were, controlling Hollywood and all the movies. It was just all American movies and international movies. So it was like 50 American movies and 5 international movies, just like the Oscars. But now we have a lot of movies coming from other countries where English is spoken. And I think it is important, I wish I had done that from the beginning, getting familiar with different accents. Because we're not going to learn English just to talk to one accent.
Yes.
And in fact, and this is something that goes back to something that I believe, which is we learn not only from native speakers, but we also learn from speakers of English from other countries. Because our objective is to be understood and to make people understand us. And I think I read somewhere that there are more people that are not native speakers of English talking to other people who are not native speakers of English, communicating in English than there are of native speakers talking to native speakers. So this just shows that, for example, I am from Brazil and you're from Vietnam and we are speaking English.
Yeah.
So this is very important, that people from different countries can actually understand each other. A lot of materials today are including different accents, in fact, because there is no right accent or wrong accent. There is the accent that is intelligible, that people can understand.
Yes.
To add on to what Judy said, there are few more than 400 million native speakers of English. So actually there's more Mandarin and of course of Spanish than of English. However, there are about 1 to 1.5 billion people who actually use English in their daily or professional lives who are not native speakers. And so, like Judy said, the average conversation between two people these days using English are between 2 non-native speakers.
Yeah.
And then as for accents, the only thing I will say, and God help me, I sometimes think of our co-workers who were from the north of Scotland, or sometimes from the Bayou in deep Louisiana. While I agree, generally speaking, there's no right or wrong accent, if it is such that it's unintelligible by other people who speak the same language, I don't know, I consider it wrong per se, because they can communicate in their locale, in their environment, but outside of it, it doesn't function.
Yeah. We can talk about being effective. Are you an effective communicator in the language? That is, do people understand you? Do you understand people, right? It's not enough. Yeah. I totally agree. I have a lot of difficulty to understand some of the accents. For example, I'm not going to name a country, but there are people from a certain country who speak really, really fast. and mix all the words together and put some kind of tones in the language that I really cannot understand. If people speak more slowly, they are more effective, in fact. And this is one of the misconceptions, and perhaps Denny can tell me his opinion about that because he's a native speaker. But I think it is better to speak slowly and clearly than to speak fast and unclearly.
Yes.
So
it doesn't sound more fluent just because it's fast.
Yes.
I encourage people actually to use Forrest Gump as an exemplar, no matter your level. His vocabulary isn't markedly sophisticated, and nor is his grammar. In fact, he's critiqued as being fairly simple-minded. However, he goes at a slow pace. People can understand him, even though he has a fairly thick accent. You know, he has a good, strong Alabama accent. But he says very important and clear things and just speaks slowly. Now, I don't know which group of which people, which country Judy was referring. However, what I can say, when I was going to college in the United States, there were a sizable number of students who were from East Asia and also from India and Eastern Europe. And on occasion, I was with students who were from East Asia and from India, and we would be in a group. And after the Indian students had left, the other students would ask me to tell them what they had said because they had spoken so quickly. And my problem sometimes when I'm with a large group of Indians from India, if I'm with them for several days, then it's not a problem. But otherwise, if I'm just with them for 10 or 20 minutes and then not again for a few days or months, it takes me a moment, but I can get to the speed to understand what they're saying. Their pronunciation is accurate, all right, in terms of the sounds. Their intonation sometimes is not native sounding to me. It's a little challenging, but their pronunciation is quite accurate. It's just so fast. It takes me a little bit of time to get adjusted to it. And also occasionally people from Pakistan are similar.
Yeah.
But like Judy was saying, but it's good English. All right. It's good grammar, good vocabulary. But you need to get your listening comprehension to help you to understand it. And also politely maybe ask them sometimes to slow down a little.
Yeah. Yes. Because then we're talking about, I was just going to mention that we're talking about learning a language. No, we're talking about communication.
Yes.
It's not enough to learn a lot about a language if you're not communicating effectively.
Yes.
And it's not enough to be born speaking a language if you cannot communicate.
Like you guys remind me about last Friday. I did an interview with 3 Japanese. And in the end of an interview, they asked me like, do you have any problem with our accent? Because they know that they speak English with a Japanese accent is a little difficult to understand because they speak really fast and they always put the vowel in the end of the word. So so it shocked me at the first time, but I totally can understand them. It's maybe just some sentence I just cut the keyword. I cannot cannot understand all of the sentence, but I can cut the keyword. And I told them it's okay, I can understand you totally. And I learn English for working, not learn English for teaching. So it's okay if I and you can communicate. We are all not native.
Yeah.
So you are Japanese, I'm Vietnamese, and we will work together in the future with English. But it's okay. I have Vietnamese accent, you have Japanese accent, but we can communicate, and it's enough, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So
I think accent has a lot to do with identity as well. When I started learning English way back in the 80s, something that was very fashionable was accent reduction. That was, you would try to eliminate your accent as, as much as possible, so that it would be considered to be good English. And I actually had an experience, Denny. I went to the US because I had that. So I focused a lot on that, eliminated all the accent that I had. And then when I traveled to the US, I met a person, an American. We talked for a long time. And then she told me, I cannot tell where you're from. I know you're not from here, but I don't know where you're from. And I thought, yeah, I have to tell you that I speak English as it is in the books. And after that experience, I thought, I want my Brazilian accent back because it's my identity. I don't want people to say, I cannot tell where you're from. This is important. I don't think we should eliminate our accent 100% or imitate a country's accent 100% to the point that you lose your own identity. Unless you don't like the identity you have. I don't know. What do you think, Denny?
Well, so what I'll say is I understand a lot of people are connected, feel that their accent is a form of showing or expressing their identity. I'm not that way, but I certainly understand it. What I will say is that I agree that as long as you take accent reduction, maybe more with the focus of making sure that you're more intelligible, certainly, making sure other people, it's easy for them to understand you. But otherwise, it's not so important. I lived in Dubai for only a month. But while I was living in Dubai, hardly anybody in Dubai speaks English as their first language. Almost nobody does. And so I see people from many different countries of Africa or Central Asia or India or around the Middle East, Persian, Turkish, whatever. And I would just listen. I would listen to their conversations. And I found it very interesting because I would sometimes find the pronunciation challenging to understand, but they're all from different countries, all with different things that I couldn't handle or manage at the beginning, but they could instantly. And maybe they've been doing it for years. And it made me wonder about how far people really need to go to be readily or easily understood. Yeah. And how.
Yeah. And how?
When we consider standard spoken English, what does that mean?
Yes. In fact, I just would like to connect it to our topic. Why we're talking about this, because this has to do with our objectives. So how far do we need to go in our self-study or in our studies outside and in the classroom in terms of improving our pronunciation? So I think that the first thing is being intelligible, that is, people can understand us. And that means that we have to have some work on some things. For example, connected speech. Because there are some elements in pronunciation that are not actually related to accent in a way in which if you get this wrong, this is going to affect intelligibility and this is going to affect listening comprehension, because we tend just to hear what we can produce. So how do you improve connected speech in the most fun way possible? Choose a song, listen to your song, make some lines where the sounds are connected, cross out the sounds that are linked and eliminated. For example, work it out. work it out. But no one is going to say it like that. So if you have the expectation to hear, you have to work it out. And then you hear someone say, you have to work it out. You don't understand that. So you need to actually work on that in your pronunciation. And this is something, for example, one of the rules is in English, when a word ends in a consonant sound and the next word starts with a vowel sound, you link that. So work it out, work it out. In American English, work it out. In British English, work it out. Work it out, because they don't say it out. So, and then again, what I'm saying is we need different kinds of accents. So why not choose songs from different singers or bands from different countries and work with that? So I have to say that a lot of my accent reduction happened with the help of, and now you already know that I am old because I've been teaching English for more than 35 years. But my great partners were Michael Jackson and Madonna, because I knew their songs by heart. And this is something that we used to do back in the 80s. We would have one new song and we would listen to that song over and over and over again. And we would get the lyrics and we wanted to sing the songs. So gradually what happened at that time was that even without having the theory, because we don't need the theory of pronunciation to improve our pronunciation. At that time, I was a student. I was not a teacher. I knew the songs by heart, and I knew the linking sounds by heart. I knew reduction of vowels by heart. Like, for example, a problem that Brazilians have is that we have syllables. So we pronounce every syllable. An example, independent. We would say independent, because it's independent, right? 4 syllables. And then we could even add a final vowel sound where you don't have it. Independent. Now, if you're listening to a song and you're repeating that because you're singing, not because you're having fun, it's not because you're studying English, you get the pronunciation correct. And I remember I saw a movie where there were 2 girls, and the girl said, I'm going to teach you how I learned English. And then she took her friend to a karaoke bar.
Yeah.
Because she would sing and sing and sing. And the only way you can get high scores is if you get the sounds right.
Yeah.
And you're having fun.
Yeah, it's an interesting method.
Yeah.
Yes. So we'll go straight to our topic today. So I have the specific problems. It's not problem, but like to talk about my roommate. She's like almost beginner. Like she her listening skill, or she too shy to speak, and listening skill is not good. And like now she wants to learn because she works on small trading company, and she sometimes some partner from the other country visit to her company, and she wants to improve her English to can help her boss to take care of the partner, or speak English, communicate or translate for her company. And she really want to self-study, but she told me that she don't know how to learn at the beginning, and she really feel lost motivation to learn along like this. So Judy, do you have because you have a really long experience in teaching English, and so do you have any advice for her to learn English by herself effectively?
I think that I think that one of the things that we have to consider is that when you are in a basic level and you look at your future, I mean, the skills that you want to develop for the future, you want that future now. And that is kind of tricky because let's think of a swimming pool. And let's imagine that you want to learn how to swim. What do we usually do? We choose a swimming pool that is not so deep. Because if the swimming pool is too deep, for example, if you can't swim, you cannot start learning in a lake that is 20 meters deep, because that you're going to drown. So my metaphor is to show that we have to be aware of that learning a language takes some time. Now, time can be 6 years if you only study 2 hours a week. It can be faster if you study 2 hours every day. When we look at courses, because I'm kind of advocating, I am defending the idea that we need classes. Most people need classes. And people who don't need classes don't need me. Because they learn on their own. And probably, the image is frozen. Yeah, I think
she'll be back.
Okay, this is going on.
We're just having a slight technical difficulty. Yes, please go on.
Should I go on?
Yes.
I'm so used to talking, looking at her. Okay, so I lost track of mine. Yeah, so we have this idea that you need a total number of hours studying first. The second one is that we need to be aware that learning a language takes time. Oh, there she is. She's back.
Sorry.
That's fine. So for your roommate, what I would say is take one step at a time first. The second thing is set objectives in different levels. Because if you only look at the final objective, it is demotivating. Because, for example, going back to my metaphor, I have to start by learning how to put my head in the water and blowing the air through my nose. I can't start by saying I want to jump, dive in, and move up, because that's very difficult. It takes time. So the more I practice, the more I will learn. So your roommate, if she's in a hurry, so she should remember, this is important to me. I really want it. I really want to be able to do that. How much time am I going to spend every day to achieve my goal? At the beginning, I wouldn't advise spending hours because it's tiring. Imagine if I decided to jump into the pool and put my head in the water for 3 hours and try to practice breathing inside underwater. It's too tiring at that time. So I need to start gradually, perhaps half an hour. And then after the 2 first weeks, I can start studying for 1 hour and start to find fun activities to do in English so that I can increase the number of hours without increasing the pressure. Because if people feel under pressure and stressed, there is something that in language teaching is called filter. It's a kind of the term that we use is affective filter. So when your affective filter is high, you don't learn much. So you have to lower your affective filter. And this is something that we have to do, with our emotions. And one of the problems that a lot of the students I have taught have is that they feel all this pressure. I'm going to lose my job, or I'm never going to get promoted. And all this is actually preventing them from learning because they're putting added pressure to the situation. Yes. So, I think small steps and then bigger steps. And suddenly she can start jumping. And then she's running. And then run, Forrest, run.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Judy. A really valuable sharing. Yes. So, Judy, one more thing. Is the things that she should do, right? But so what is the thing that she or everyone who start to learning by themselves avoid doing this when we learn English? Yeah,
I think that I have already mentioned some of these things when I said, for example, choose materials that are your level.
Yeah.
Because if we choose materials that are too difficult or too easy, that can be, if it's too difficult, you don't understand anything, demotivating. If it's too easy, it's boring, demotivating. First thing. Yes. Second thing that I think people shouldn't do is to do the same thing over and over again. And only that thing. That is, there is a lot to learn related to a language. So we think about the different skills. We can think about different kinds of materials. So it's interesting to have a variety of approaches, a variety of materials and approaches that we use when we're studying on our own. So we can read something, we can watch something, we can listen to something, we can sing along. We can make vocabulary maps. Have you mentioned that, Denny? Did you mention that last week?
That came up with the vocabulary.
Yeah. Mapping is very interesting because it has to do with how our brain works. Our brain does not work in lists. Our brain works building maps. So if you do that, you're using a technique that your brain uses to learn the language. So this is very interesting too. I saw something. Sorry. There is a technique that I could actually tell your roommate for basic level students called shadow reading. Have you ever heard about that?
Yes.
Yeah, this is very, very easy for basic level students to do. They can use the contents of their course books first. And when they do shadow reading, usually the course books that I know, they have dialogues and they have listening texts. And when the listening texts are dialogues, they can also help for shadow reading. That is, what I mean is you read, for example, you play the dialogue at a lower volume. No, first at a louder volume, and you whisper the words. You whisper the sentences, and you can repeat that, several times. Let's imagine that we're just starting to learn the language, and you have a dialogue where they say, "Oh, where do you come from?" "Oh, I come from Vietnam." "Nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you too." It could be something like this. So, where do you come from? 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 Where from? Where come from? Where do you come from? And then you get two things. You practice your pronunciation. Because you get the pronunciation right, you improve your listening and you remember the dialogues. And a lot of language learning in the beginner level is actually remembering. Remembering remembering the phrases, right? I remember even nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. For someone who's just starting the language, it can be very challenging to remember nice to meet you. I'm pleased to meet you. How do you do? And then if you do shadow reading with the first lessons, you will have all these benefits. And it's easy. You use the content you have in your own course book, right? Before you start looking for something else, something different. I would recommend this technique only with dialogues, because the purpose of this activity is, is a combination of this learning, remembering the vocabulary, remembering the expressions, and getting the pronunciation correct. It's kind of challenging. For example, if you say, I'm going to use a podcast and I'm going to do shadow reading, because you will probably get frustrated, because in podcasts, people speak too fast. So you impose a challenge that you don't need to yourself. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you, Judy. Because just about my roommate again, I saw many people, they complain about that they don't have much time to learn English. Like they're too busy at work, or they have many things that they have to, put its priority. So it is any ways to learn English for some people like this who just have a little time in their life to focus on the English. So what's the ways for them?
Yeah, I think that this is more about time management than about learning a language. Yes. So we waste a lot of time.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we need to decide, this is a decision that we make. Do I really need to? And then decide. Yes. For example, I love playing games. This is important to me. So I'm giving an example. Do I need to play games for 2 hours? Or can I play just for 1 hour and then study English for 1 hour? There's this, giving up some things. I wouldn't recommend giving up interaction with your family. This is important. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, observe your day and see, is there anything that actually is not that important to me now, or that is not as important as my learning English? So there you can make some time. Something else is taking the most of your time without getting stressed. Why do I say without getting stressed? For example, if someone drives for 40 minutes and they decide that they're going to study English while driving, it's fine. It works, but you have to be careful not to feel stressed, because some people, they work too hard. They have to make decisions every day. And perhaps those 40 minutes in the traffic are the only moments when they can actually relax. So in that case, I wouldn't give up those moments, because we need to relax as well. So perhaps 15 minutes. So I will listen to, you know what I mean? It's a negotiation. It's an internal negotiation that we have to have, and it needs to be systematic.
And
that is,
it also, sorry.
It's better to study 15 minutes every day than to study 2 hours one day.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
And connected to that, with Judy giving the example of listening maybe to a podcast or listening to a dialogue or whatever while you're driving during your commute. If the driving requires you to give attention, then it's probably not going to work. I mean, you hear people say maybe you can listen or watch something while you're cooking or you're taking a shower or this or that. Well, first, maybe like Judy said, your shower time is the only time where you can let your brain drift and you can relax for the day. Well, no, then it has a purpose. You need that. But if you're cooking and you need to focus on what you were doing, so a little aside to our dear community, at the moment, I am studying Portuguese. And Judy, talking about this topic, I was thinking about how every morning for 25 minutes, I prepare my breakfast. And it's exactly the same every day. There is no deviation, no change. And usually I just listen to a podcast or two during that time. But I now realize I'm not doing anything that requires me to think. I can do it without thinking. This is a good time. I could be practicing listening anyway to Portuguese.
Just don't cut your finger.
I do all the cutting the night before in my preparation for the cooking. Or I would. Okay. But that's a good point. If you're using public transportation, you have a lot of time because you're there. You're just waiting.
Yeah, that's true. When I just brought it out with my roommate, we have a conversation when I get home, and she told me that she spent almost a Sunday to learn English, but she feel like sometimes she lost motivation to learn. And I told her that the enjoy learning is the keyword that you should know. Like me. When I ride the motorbike and I go to somewhere and I look some boards or some templates in the motorbike and I read the number by English and I read everything by English.
Opportunities.
And I love doing it. And sometimes I just imagine some conversation in my mind, and I say, no, I don't think so. But I try to make it natural. So I think it you can learn everything everywhere, right? So if that's the thing that I believe, that when you decide to self-study, it can come from inside, right? It's you have to really want to do it, and you will figure out how you do it, the way. When you really want.
Because learning a language is something that happens inside us. So it's difficult to see that.
Yes.
But it's the same way as exercising. For example, if I say I don't have time to exercise, well, okay, you don't have 2 hours to go to the gym, but can you do some push-ups? Like 20 push-ups, or I don't know, bend overs or squatting. If you do just 10 a day, it's better than not doing it, right?
So
you will feel better.
Another confession from Denny, reviewing how he did or didn't successfully study foreign language. When I took German 1, my first full semester at university, I remember Dr. Osar explaining to us how pronouns are more complicated in German than in English, right? For everyone who doesn't like English grammar, pronouns among the European languages is the easiest. I'm sorry. And if you can't do it with English, don't waste your time with any other languages. I'm sorry. English is the easiest when it comes to that game. But I remember him telling us, you got 5 minutes while you're walking on campus to another hall, to another class. Just practice making simple sentences with the pronouns. Now, I was learning German only to be able to read, never to speak. So I didn't care one iota. In hindsight, that probably wasn't a good idea, right? That wasn't a good idea. Judy, does that type of thing work where it's a low-level student, right? It's low level, but they're consciously practicing something that maybe they can monitor, they can self-monitor.
Yes,
also.
Sure. I think that Joy mentioned that, building dialogues in your mind actually works a lot. I used to do that when I was a beginner as well. Now I would drive and do that, but I'm a very good driver. I can do that. Yeah. There is a lot of practicing that you can do at a beginner level. And actually one of them is mentally or even in writing. When I start, I know that this sounds a bit old-fashioned, but I used to make a clean copy of my notes.
What does that mean?
It means, so I would go to classes and I would take notes. And then later I would look at my notes and I would copy them in a more organized way. And in that sense, I was reviewing and making sure that I understood the lessons. And I was actually revisiting the lessons. And occasionally what happened was that I would look at my notes and I wouldn't be able to understand. And then I would ask the teacher. And this is very interesting because, a lot of teachers ask, do you have any questions? Do you understand? And usually students answer yes or no, I don't have any questions. Yes, I understand. But you need to process that information. You need to process the lesson to actually have questions. Something else is that, for example, when you make the clean copy, when you revisit your notes, what you could do, and this is something, for example, the articles, like when you teach basic level students how to use a, an, or the without all the details. It's just those situations, like before a vowel sound, you have to use that, right? Something that I used to do as a technique as a teacher, I'm not teaching at this moment, but what I used to do was I would get them in pairs and I would tell them, explain to your partner how to use the articles. You can use Portuguese. And because they were trying to explain what they had understood, they would have questions. Because sometimes, in the basic level, you cannot actually tell them, explain that in English. So they would use Portuguese and they would say in Portuguese, so if you have a word that starts with a vowel sound, you have to use an. For example, an umbrella, an old man. If it's a consonant, so they would actually explain this in Portuguese. But that's when they occasionally would have questions, because sometimes they would say, what about a university? Why is it different? And then that's when we could actually work on their questions, because they stopped to think about what they were learning. And this is important. This is part of self-learning, because the teacher cannot guarantee that you're thinking about what you're learning. This is something that happens inside us.
One other question I have about self-study, especially for things perhaps along the lines of grammar or maybe vocabulary, is the issue of fossilization. For our listeners,
what's fossilization?
Okay.
Would you like to explain?
Sure. So fossilization is it is a systematic mistake that you make. and you have done it so many times, it forever becomes a part of your language. This is one of the challenges usually adult learners will face from first language interference. What I mean is that some people from different countries have different grammar or vocabulary or pronunciation problems, and they learn it when they're older. But because of all the time they spent practicing it the wrong way, maybe even in the classroom, right? Maybe your teachers were using the wrong grammar or the wrong pronunciation, and you did it for so many years, or you repeated it so many times, it's fossil. It's now a rock, and it is permanent in your language.
Thanks for explaining. I think that it is more difficult to change a bad habit than to learn a good habit. How do you change a bad habit? I'm not saying that this is a bad habit. It's just a metaphor. How do you change a bad habit? First, you have to recognize it is a bad habit. So if you think about fossilization, you need to be aware. So, for example, I think I have very little experience with Vietnamese students. I've spoken to some people from Vietnam, and I think that one of the basic pronunciation problems is not pronouncing the end of the words clearly. If students are not aware of that, they won't change it. That's what I would think. So, for example, I have to think about something from Portuguese and English then. One of the mistakes that Brazilian students or Portuguese speakers will make when they learn English is exchanging the verb have and be. Why? Because in Portuguese, we don't say I am blah, blah, blah years old. For example, I am 52 years old. We say a literal translation would be I have 52 years. My first strategy with students who have this problem is to shock them. So when they say, and when they're younger, right, they could say, I have 20 years. And I say, and after that, you will die. Because you only have 20 years. Why? Because I need them to be aware that that is different in English. And once they become aware that it is I am and not I have in English, because if they say I have, it sounds like I have 6 months and then I'll die, right? If you get terminal disease. So first they have to become aware of the mistake. And these are the stages of development. First, you make a mistake and you are unaware of the mistake. Then you become aware of the mistake. There is an effort for you to move on from being aware of a mistake to not making that mistake. That is to use the correct forms, pronunciation, vocabulary. And then finally, it's automatic and you start using that correctly without even thinking about that. So I think that awareness is the first one, and then you have to focus on that. Let's give an example. If it's pronunciation, so I know that you have the stressed syllable is not the one that I am pronouncing. So how do I become aware of that? It could be someone telling me, or it could be my own perception. For example, I have my yoga teacher is not a native speaker. And she kept saying, breath in, breath out, breath in, breath out, through the classes. And I kind of never told her that because I thought communication is taking place. This is a yoga class. I'm not her English teacher. Never said a word.
Yes.
And then one day she was attending a yoga session. And the teacher was saying, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And she thought, she's making a mistake. She's saying it wrong. And then she decided to check. When she realized she was the one making the mistake. And now, because she became aware of that, does she get it correct automatically? No. But she's aware. So sometimes she gets it right, sometimes she gets it wrong. And I'm sure that in a few weeks, perhaps, she will start to use the correct form automatically. She won't even stop to think about that. And this is something about learning a language as well. Your improvement is in droplets. It's not like you radically improve everything. You have to focus on one thing at a time.
So I have a follow-up question, if you don't mind, to this. So as you mentioned or alluded to about how a fairly consistent challenge for Vietnamese students is pronouncing the last sound on a word.
Is it?
Yes, that is a consistent problem for most Vietnamese. Is that something? Do you think that there can be an effective way to do some self-study with pronunciation to help address this problem?
Mm-hmm. So again, they need to be aware of that. So perhaps either they could become aware of that themselves if they expose themselves to materials where you have different accents. And it's the production of the sound. Pronunciation is muscles, air. It's not only here. I mean, you have to get everything right here and here. So gradually, slowly practicing. I can give you an example from Portuguese speakers. We do not have the TH sound in Portuguese. So how do we get that sound correctly? First, they have to learn how to produce the sounds. So we usually teach them. So you put your clean finger against your lips and you touch. Do you have the TH sound in Vietnamese?
Yeah, we have, but it's not really exactly with English.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
okay.
But it's kind of similar.
Similar, okay.
Yeah.
Because we actually teach students like you put your fingers against your lips and you touch your finger with your tongue.
Yeah.
And then you blow the air. So yes. There is this teaching physically, producing the sound physically. So even pronunciation of words in isolation first, before connected speech. I think that this could help a lot.
Yes.
There is a book that is kind of old and probably everybody can find it on the internet for free, called Pronunciation Pairs by Ann Baker. And it is a very good book if you have to work on sounds, because it starts at word level, then you have chunks, and then you have sentences. And it's categorized by sounds. So you have pronunciation pairs, American English, or 3 or 3 British English, if I'm not mistaken. Or, no, sorry, ship or sheep in British English. So you can choose one or the other, or both. And then they go sound by sound, and the sound, for example, p, k, t. Initial sound, middle sound, final sound. and lots of lists of words to be, where you can practice repetition. Something that we use a lot in language teaching is actually using a lab. Today, we don't need a lab anymore because you have the internet. I wouldn't be able to tell you now what apps could help because I haven't done any research on that yet. But there must be some apps where you can actually practice the pronunciation. This book probably you can find for free. And then the audio books, the audio files. And then practice repetition. If you don't find a book, use your own course book, word, repetition, word, connected in a sentence. And then you have all the connected speech involved. But you need to get the words around in your mouth. Because if you don't, you will not learn. It's just like you can't learn the theory without doing that. For example, I can say I'm an excellent soccer player because I've watched a lot of soccer games. Yeah. No, I need to get a ball and start practicing. So that's the same about sounds. We have to get them around the mouth, right?
Yes.
Going back to the self-study aspect of this, as an example, any level person could do. They could find, for example, a small passage, maybe 5 sentences, maybe 1 paragraph.
Yeah.
And they also have the audio recording of it, right? They have the audio recording, and then they also have the text of it. What they could do, perhaps, is they can record themselves reading it and compare it to the recording that they already have of it, which is supposed to be clearly enunciated or pronounced English, and compare and contrast it. Would that have any value?
It would, as a follow-up. Right? So I think that we have already mentioned, for example, shadow reading. That is very good for improving pronunciation. Singing is a very good way of improving pronunciation. So when they become aware of the sounds and they get the sounds around in their mouths, chances are that when they get to compare, they will realize that they are getting the sounds right.
Yes,
because they will. That's what I mean. You have to get the words in your mouth and speak. And if you get the sounds wrong, for example, in karaoke, like I saw that, you will not score the points.
yes.
So it's wrong.
Like about pronounce some words wrongly. One of our audience just mentioned in the comments like a fossilized mistake, a mistake that has been done since they were taught wrongly, and it's continuously used and never been corrected. So when it's corrected, it be hard to fix already. So it's a habit formation and behavioral theory of language.
Yes.
Like they are aware at time, but they don't effort to correct it because it used, it have been used for a long time, and it's really hard when they're aware of it, but it becomes the habit already.
When you talk about pronunciation, you become aware, and then you have to get it right. No, because you have to first practice.
Yes.
And it is part of practicing pronunciation to repeat and repeat and repeat. So, for example, if I know that I am mispronouncing a word, I have to repeat it aloud the correct form, in the correct way, many times. Now, the problem is, are you repeating the word in the wrong way? So that's when you need a monitor. There is some technology. using speech recognition, where you can work with that. If people want to invest, buying apps for that, there is that. But sometimes it is just the help of a partner, because we don't get all the wrong sounds the same way.
Yes.
I do support studying with a partner, because I think it helps motivation. Partners will have different issues, perhaps pronunciation, perhaps, strong and weaker points. So they can help each other.
Yes.
But sometimes you do need the help of someone who can pronounce the word correctly to help you, to monitor you, because some of the sounds can be imperceptible for us. I'm still working with my tones in Chinese. So sometimes I say something and people laugh, and I say, I got it wrong. And I know it's hard. I can repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, and it's still not the right sound. So I need support. I need professionals to help me.
Yes.
Unfortunately, when you're doing self-study, not everything, you won't be able to solve everything. Some of the things you will need a professional to give you support to improve. But you can do a lot when you do self-study.
Yes. So I think with some mistake, like we just pointed out, I think it depends on how much you want to fix, right?
Yeah.
If you, I just listened the videos from the Thai teaching English, and he told that like if you speak the one word wrongly, like 1,000 times, and now you want to fix it, you have to talk it by the right way more than 1,000 times, and to make it become if you want to change, it depends on how much you want to change and how much effort you put on that. And if you think that this word you say it's wrong in the wrong way, but everyone can accept it and it is acceptable, and you don't want to change it, and I think it's okay. But if you really want to become more professional, and you really want to change it, and it depends on you, right?
Yeah,
it depends
yeah.
on how the effort we put in this and how important the word sound. Like
Yeah.
some word, I think some word we can say it's wrong, but everyone still get it.
Yeah.
But some word we have to say it in the correct ways, I think.
Yeah. On the other hand, it might be fun.
Yeah.
You see some people online, some YouTubers, and I saw a guy, I think that he is Chinese, and he's so funny. He imitates pronunciation from different people from different countries, and it's kind of fun. So I wonder if this is a skill that someone wants to develop, being able to produce different accents and different sounds. It's part of our development if you want to. It's just like, any other skill. But I agree. I think that there is a line, where you need to change something because people don't understand you.
Yes.
Fortunately, nowadays, most of the times, people are not judgmental, but sometimes there are occasions when they are. I have an anecdote. There was once a time when I was teaching at this very big chemical industry in Brazil, and they sent one of the directors. He was not my student. I didn't know him. They sent one of the directors from Brazil to Germany. And then he was going to talk to one of the top directors there. And he spent 10 minutes in the office. And then the guy said, "Oh, you can go back to Brazil." So he came back to Brazil. He went back to Brazil, and he was really angry because he said, "How come he makes me go all the way to Germany if he's going to spend only 10 minutes with me?" But then someone called the director and said, what happened? And then he said, he doesn't speak English. So there is the other side, which is sometimes the level you want to achieve has to do with what you want and what you need in your life.
Yes.
So, for example, in some of the jobs, if you want to be an English teacher, you need to achieve a certain level where you eliminate some of the basic accent influences so that you don't influence your students to keep that. So, for example, if I'm teaching English to people in Brazil, I cannot make mistakes that are typical of Brazilians in a class because I am the model. A lot of the exposure that they have is from me. So if I keep making that mistake over and over and over again, I am contributing to their unlearning or not learning the correct form. Because perhaps they listen to the correct form once or twice in a listening, and I keep repeating the wrong form over and over again. Chances are that they will learn what I'm saying and not what they have in the model. Not children. Children are so fun. They listen, and then I remember a child who once told her mom, the teacher has a weird way of talking. And then we realized that the teacher had a very strong Brazilian accent. So yeah, there is this and there is that, right? That is,
yes.
Sometimes we don't need to change, but sometimes we need to change.
So it's like our topic today is not only pronunciation, it's self-study, right? So you, like Judy, you just mentioned it before, like learning, I think self-study or learning English, like swimming, right? The first thing that we should do is jump into the water or just make the first step in the place that we safe, and we can, at least we can touch the water first. And when we want to, like, it depends on how much the level you want to achieve. So I think if you really want, you will, I think you will figure out some ways, or some people can help you, and, step by step. But I think the important thing that has to come from yourself, that you want to do it. You really want to do it. So you self-study, you learn everything around you, you do everything that makes you feel happy when you're learning, and we do a lot of things. I think it's a keyword, right? Because
I think so. And I think that it's not easy.
Yeah.
Because it requires a lot of motivation. So we need to be organized.
Yeah.
And disciplined. Because sometimes it's going to be painful. Sometimes you're going to say, oh, I would rather do something else. And then we have to negotiate. Wait a minute. Yeah. I will do this after I have done what I had planned for my learning of the language.
Yes.
So it's an internal negotiation. And sometimes we make exceptions. I think that this is also important.
Yes.
Occasionally people will go out for a happy hour, and you don't want to say to your friends, no, I'm not going because I'm studying. But you can't go out every evening and never study.
Yes, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
So now I can say, like, as my level now, it's not good enough, but I don't have to put any schedule on learning. Like I have to learn or keep going, or but that's why, because I learn everything around me, and English is like my enjoy thing. So, but I think with the beginner, that when we don't know how to do, and we don't really like English, we just learn, and we don't know how to enjoy doing it, we have to have discipline and the specific goals, and the partner to learn, or join some class. We have someone who professionally can teach us, and we could follow them. And when we came to a higher level, that we can enjoy learning and we can do it by ourselves, right? So,
and then, when you are in a higher level, there is this identifying opportunities.
Yes.
Yeah. There's so much. There are so many different ways in which you can learn and interact. Nowadays, with the development of technology,
yes,
you can join. Denny is like, that's an expression from English. You do have that expression. I mean, you can join groups and interact online.
Yeah,
you can make friends in other countries. There are apps where you make friends from other countries just to practice using the language. And what I would recommend is not only look for native speakers, look for people from other countries who cannot speak your mother tongue.
Yeah.
And then you both will be enjoying, and you don't have the pressure of, like if you're practicing with a native speaker of the language, there is also the pressure that you have to be very interesting. You have to be a very interesting person. And how can you be a very interesting person when your English is B1 level?
Yeah.
Now, if you talk to someone from another country who's also interested in practicing the language, you both know you are interesting people. It's just that sometimes you cannot express yourselves that well in another language, in English, for example. And this will gradually change, I guess.
Yes.
Don't know if I'm saying, I don't know if this is right. This is just my opinion.
Could students, do you think, for self-study, either start or watch TikTok videos or start making their own TikTok videos?
I think so. Yeah.
Just a minute and a half. Is that a little more ideal sometimes for some students rather than longer?
Yes. I think it's great.
Yeah,
it's great. This is the new way of communicating.
Yeah, absolutely great. There's a TikTok. They have a lot of, duet videos. You know this? That this native or someone who professional in English, they will make a conversation and they will prepare a blank for you to talk. And they talk their own part and they keep silent for you to answer. And you can record the video and like you talking with them, like you chatting or you
and then
video
you post
call.
that.
Yeah, and you like TikTok supported to do it. You will record it, and when you listen again and you feel like, no, I didn't talk naturally, and you do it again, and then you practice again. And when you feel it's perfect conversation, and you can post it public or just private, but depend on you.
Yeah,
but a lot of content.
Great.
It's just something like you break up with your boyfriend and they are a boyfriend and you are a girlfriend who's cheating on him and he yelling at you and you tell something. It's a lot of content, really impressive. And I enjoy
fun.
a lot. You answer the sentence and it's really, really useful on TikTok, I think.
Yeah.
They support the learner. It's really, really good.
It sounds really exciting.
Yes.
If you like to
short.
make videos,
and you can download it. You can download the videos directly to your mobile phone. It's not like YouTube or your Facebook. They prevent you to
everything is
download
controlled. And
but in TikTok. And now Facebook and YouTube change and follow TikTok to do something like this. They start changing. But I think it's good.
It's interesting. I just know that people keep telling me that Facebook is only for old people. And I keep using it. So I say, oh, okay.
Yeah, now Facebook is changing. They follow TikTok. Yeah.
Yes, they have to change because the way they I agree. Yeah, another opportunity. So many things. Yeah.
Yes.
No one can say there's nothing for them to do to learn English. There's so much.
Yeah.
So much variety as well.
Yes. So today I just watched the videos that the English teacher, they say, with 5 vocabulary, you may pronounce in correctly ways. You can go first and I go after. And so they prepare the blank for me to read it. And after that, I will listen the answer of the teacher. And it comes to a second. Yeah. And I can watch it again and again and again until I can memorize all of the vocabulary and I can pronounce in it. Yeah, it's right way. So it okay. Okay, so it's kind of late.
I don't know. I lost track of time because this is so enjoyable.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're glad to hear that. That's enjoying when it's our live stream. And really thank you, Judy. Like you are really like you're a teacher, you're a professional, and I don't have to, to talk much. Like just listen and you can control our slide stream. It's really, really good today. It's really honored.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Sorry, did I do anything?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, but like really, like it is easy to understand, and you organize it. It's really, really impressive. So thank you a lot. Yeah.
It was a joy.
So do you have anything you want to share more, or it's kind of late in your area now, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
What time is it there?
We are 10 p.m. in Vietnam, but Georgia might be sooner, earlier.
It's just 1 hour earlier than me. Then.
Yeah.
I don't know. What time is it here? Oh,
it's almost 11.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
What I would say is that it's worth it.
Yeah.
That is, if you're a beginner level student and you're struggling, keep working, keep studying because it's worth it. Not only, when I started learning, I didn't have the perception of, all the things that I could do just because I know English. And then later I realized most of the research is in English. The best jobs require English. Traveling requires English, depending on where you go, of course. Yeah. You can make friends not only from countries where English is spoken. You can make friends from a lot of different countries using English. There's so much entertainment in English, so much good stuff for you to read and watch and listen, interesting people to meet. So I think, it's really worth it. People who are watching me, go for it.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming here today and really valuable sharing for us. Yeah, I think it helped a lot for our community, for everyone.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I said something that people disagree with. There is a little bit of an opinion involved, right? When we give advice and when we talk about topics.
It's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So Denny, do you have something to talk?
The only thing I wanted to say is, if I were younger and learning English as a second language, I would get a Twitter account and I would be on Twitter trolling and making people wonder if I was crazy or if I was really trying to make them angry at me. Judy earlier mentioned you need to have fun when you're learning and using language. And so trolling is when you intentionally say things that are crazy. You don't really mean it, but you say things and then people say other crazy things in reaction. Twitter's the perfect place if you want to see how English is used around the world.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, today is a bit harder. This will change. This will change.
And thank you, my friend, for coming on tonight and being able to help with our community.
Yeah, really appreciate it, Judy.
Thank you.
Yeah, so everyone, so it came to the end of this live stream today. So if you have any issue or the information or something that you want to ask or want to need some advice from our expert, just comment or text us the message in our page. And we will have another live stream in next time, and the topic will be show early. So have a good night, and thank you everyone for watching and listening us today. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Once again, thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Nice
it was a pleasure.
Yes.
Bye bye.
So just don't forget to like and share and comment for us on any platform that you use.